What is the deal with the camera in Brooklyn Nine-Nine? As anyone who's been in my classroom will attest, Brooklyn Nine-Nine is an absolute favorite of mine. Not just because of the amazing writing or the incredible chemistry and performances among the cast, but also because it offers so many amazing examples of cinematographic techniques.
That's right, Rosa. I'm doing the full bullpen. Here we go.
One question that I see come up fairly often in online discourse around Brooklyn Nine-Nine is, why is the camera so shaky? The very short answer is, because it's handheld. But today I'd like to offer a much richer perspective into the cinematographic choices on B99. And this demands a look into three elements. Number one, why handheld? This is going to take a dive into some very interesting film and TV history. Number two, single camera setup. You might be surprised. Number three, B99 exploits its cinematographic choices to the fullest. So join me in this exploration and see if by the end of the video, you appreciate Brooklyn Nine-Nine in an even greater way. So you've likely noticed, or more to the point and along intentions, not noticed, that the camera in narrative film and television is usually anchored. It might not be completely static, but it's usually pretty steady with the intention of not interfering too much with the viewer's experience, maybe even trying to maintain an illusion of neutrality. Like continuity editing, which I discussed at length in my last video, linked below, a relatively stationary camera helps to maintain the illusion of omniscient spectatorship and the unfolding of real time. Once camera movement is in the mix, we are inviting and enhancing awareness of the filmmaking process. As you've likely experienced if you've ever tried to keep your phone super still while recording something, a handheld camera will always have some element of motion. While this can make the viewer hyper aware of the process and therefore the artifice of filmmaking, it can also have the opposite effect where it's more immersive. Because a handheld camera can reflect natural human movement like breathing, walking, or even running, it can actually bring the viewer in as a participant in the action. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is in essence a workplace comedy, and like its famous contemporaries, The Office and Parks and Recreation, which were also, like B99 created by Michael Schur, it employs a handheld camera. However, an important distinction is that The Office and Parks and Recreation were, at least at the outset, mockumentaries where Brooklyn Nine-Nine is not. It's never been a factor of Brooklyn Nine-Nine where characters break the fourth wall or engage in what we call direct address, looking right at the camera and addressing the audience, unless it cuts to like a recording device. But Brooklyn Nine-Nine is a workplace comedy about police detectives. So while some might chalk up the handheld camera to the Michael Schur mockumentary lineage, I would actually look to Brooklyn Nine-Nine's police procedural DNA. Series like Hill Street Blues, NYPD Blue, and Law & Order, just to name a few, employ handheld cameras. So initiated Brooklyn Nine-Nine audience members are likely, whether consciously or not, to draw a connection to those predecessors. So that draws a line to Brooklyn Nine-Nine's police procedural pedigree, but also enhances its parodic nature. This raises the next logical question, which is, why do police procedurals tend toward a handheld camera? To answer that one, we're going to have to go even further back. In the first couple of decades of cinema, cameras weren't exactly portable. They were big, They were heavy, they were noisy, and they were really difficult to move around without specialized equipment. The film stock they were using also needed a lot of controlled light to expose. So all of that meant that filmmaking was pretty tethered location-wise. While some manufacturers were making lighter and smaller models, often with journalists in mind, models like the Debris Interview, even these cameras weighed around 10 kilograms. These cameras were hand cranked, which, especially when combined with the weight of the camera itself plus the film load, would make it pretty impossible to achieve the consistent rate of hand cranking that you would need to do without anchoring it to some kind of sturdy rig. The Debris Interview was actually one of the relatively portable cameras that were employed by Dziga Vertov and his brother Mikhail Kaufman while they were shooting Man with a Movie Camera. And that film came on the heels of their previous work, the Kino Pravda or Truth Film series, and all of it was also edited by Elizaveta Svilova. With the development of portable and mechanized cameras to capture the events of World War II, and then their increased commercial availability in the decade that followed, along with more portable sound equipment, two concurrent styles of filmmaking would emerge that would change the static and highly structured documentary of the 1930s. Cinema verite, which also translates to truth film, which emerged in the 1950s in Europe, and direct cinema, which emerged in the United States in the late 1950s and into the 60s. Both of these movements were enabled and marked by handheld techniques. So for the first time, documentarists really could take the camera to any event, they could shoot things spontaneously, and they could capture events as they unfolded. The lower profile of the recording equipment also afforded greater access and inconspicuousness that documentary filmmakers and audiences had never experienced. The camera movements that came with these new styles of filmmaking were the total antithesis of the carefully structured, storyboarded, blocked, and rehearsed Hollywood narrative cinema that audiences were used to. So we're taught, and we teach very early on in film school, that despite appearances and even the best efforts of the filmmaker, documentaries can never truly be objective. Nevertheless, through these new styles of filmmaking and the films that defined them, audiences came to associate handheld cameras and the camera movements that came with it, like jerky zooms and shaky tracking shots, with authenticity, legitimacy, spontaneity, immediacy, objectivity, and gritty truth. What's interesting is that that perception hasn't really changed, even though we're decades and decades on from cinema verite and direct cinema. At a time when we rely on equally lo-fi footage captured by witnesses on their smartphones or other devices to see events as they unfold and not as authorities might frame them, we continue to associate handheld, amateurish techniques with truth, authenticity, and objective reality. In part, this might also be because historically it was more difficult to execute CGI around inconsistent camera movement. So these images, at least for a time, were less likely to have been tampered with. Now we actually use CGI to create these camera movements and put them in our narrative films to lend a scene a certain truth, authenticity, spontaneity. We've been using handheld cameras to do exactly the same thing for police procedurals. Because these series often focused on professional and personal situations with high stakes, and because these series are firmly rooted in realism, the cinematographic techniques that lend the most realism, so shaky tracking, jerky zooms, were the ideal choice for them and their audiences. Single camera setup? In the days of, I'm just going to shorthand these to direct cinema verite, it was relatively unusual to have more than one camera shooting the same action in the same space at the same time for the same production. There are really a number of reasons behind this, at the top of which is probably needless expense. But it was also really challenging to stitch together footage captured on two different cameras, which, even if they're the same make and model, can often betray inconsistencies. So direct cinema verite films, by their nature, would have been mostly single camera setups. And that means that all coverage was only ever captured by one camera. This was and remains the standard for much narrative film and television. This does not apply to series that were shot with live studio audiences. That means that every unique angle that you're seeing in a given television show or a film is a whole different take. And I hope that that helps to boost your mad respect for the continuity efforts of the cast and crew. Anyway, I noticed something on B99's Wikipedia page that gave me pause. The single camera setup designation. While I would love to believe that these incredible matches on action, even for improvised moments, are down purely to the genius of everyone involved, from performing to editing, nothing could be that perfect. Throughout the series' existence, they have used a 3-camera setup.
There's a camera, and there's a camera.
That's right. At any given time, they have 3 cameras covering the scene. This does not mean that they're any less brilliant. Their genius is just manifested in areas like they never cross the axis, they never catch the other cameras in the frame, and they maintain a seamless practical and technical consistency across camera operators. And that leads us to number 3. B99 exploits its cinematographic choices to the fullest.
Hot damn!
In addition to marrying 2 very disparate legacies of handheld camera and combining them into a third, totally unique approach, the camera in Brooklyn Nine-Nine also does 2.5 really interesting things with respect to representation and perspective. 1, it stands for us, the viewer, and makes it feel as though we are participating observers in the scene. For example, whip pans to acknowledge and facilitate an entry into the scene mimic the way we might turn our heads if distracted or cued by another character. Lingering on and or zooming into a character to catch a reaction directs and or reflects our attention. 1.5, we are not only participants or casual observers of the scene, like the extras who fill the space around the main action, but we are privy to interactions that those extras are not.
Get rid of them and bring me someone who can keep it in their slacks.
Did someone say to take off our slacks?
No, not even close.
Oh, well, keep me posted. My dogs are barking.
What dogs?
We are invited into the inner circle.
There's an inner circle?
2, in a way that actually kind of contradicts the first 1.5 points, the camera sometimes asserts its own point of view. It enhances and at times even provides the punchline.
Hey there, Boyle. How was your weekend?
Well, actually, I got a little sick.
Oh, really? Sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, Bullets Over Broadway was on TV. I came down with a big old Diane Weist infection. Like yeast!
So something else that I just really love is that in addition to enhancing the writing and the incredible performances, the timing of these techniques really serves as a reminder of the collaborative nature of motion picture production.
This is gonna be fantastic.
This is horrible. We're not ready for this. This is a level 1 responsibility. I'm a level 2 at best, and you're not even a level.
Well, I'm a level, you know, I'm probably like a level 5.
Not a level.
In my own industry training in 2 very different on-set roles, the first lesson was that you must know the script and pay close attention during rehearsals if you're not participating directly in them. So the boom op needs to anticipate where and at what distance to direct the microphone, swinging up when that yell is coming. In Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the camera operators are constantly demonstrating not only their intimate knowledge of every line, but also their familiarity with the performer's timing, whether that matches rehearsal exactly or they're doing an improvised take.
But there was a prolific car thief at the scene of the crime.
You talking about me? I'm a cop now.
No, you're not.
Then why don't I have a badge and a gun? The thin blue line just got thick as hell.
Come on, Judy.
It's not loaded. Look, if I was gonna jack a bunch of cars, I wouldn't bring two of New York's best detectives with me to the scene of the crime.
Flattery
you
won't
think
work
we're the
on us.
best?
This
What?
is nonsense. You're off the case.
It's just a really great demonstration of the close and active involvement of every crew and cast member doing their absolute best to ensure that together they realize the collective vision. So that's my take on the original, masterful, and highly effective camera work on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And now I want to hear your thoughts. Has this video provided any insight or inspiration as to how you perceive or recollect the series? Are there other elements of the series production that always stood out to you? Do you have a totally different take on the cinematographic efforts in the series? And are there any other series that you'd like me to do a deep dive on? Please let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed what I did here today, please be sure to like and subscribe for more. Thank you so much for joining me.
Nine! Come on and party tonight!